Yo, 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 yo.
Joburg.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 277 of GI Joburg. My name is Steve, and I'm joined by Rob.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, if you're looking at this on YouTube, you already have known that. But our podcast listeners, we're both here together in the same space as we're about to explode and explore world enemy number one.
Explode and explore. But of course, it's not just the two of us yammering away about Battle Action Force. We brought in an expert. Those of you who are on the BurgForce might know him by his codename Railroad. He goes by the name Darren as well, and we've had him on before, but never in this capacity. We're talking about comics, particularly the Battle Action Force comics, of which I'd say he is an expert. So what better time to call upon Mr. Railroad than tonight? Hello, Darren. Welcome to the party, Betty.
Morning, all. Expert, hey? Well,
Yeah, it's a party for
no
us,
pressure.
but it's 7 a.m. for you.
Well, now you know how Stephen felt whenever we recorded this time in South Africa.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah. Same
I was on
time
the
for
same
the
time frame as
Sappers,
him anyway.
but for the yeah,
And
those
that's
were the
true.
days, Darren, my man. Those were the days. For those of you scratching your heads, Darren is in the future. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's in Australia, all the way on the East Coast as well, which means that he is 9 hours from us, or thereabouts, 8 hours,
Yep.
7. I don't know, whatever it is. You got daylight savings is switched off, hasn't it? So you are in the far-flung future.
24 hours ahead of America.
Yeah.
What's Monday like, bro?
Oh, well, it's wet. And the lottery numbers are... Oh, wait, no, better not.
Really?
Oh, no, I don't share that.
Sports Almanac. Oh, man. Just give me a peek, a little peek. Speaking
Oh,
of,
it comes
you're
with a
not a
dust
rugby
cover.
fan by any chance, but... oh,
Hey!
really? Amazing.
Fancy.
They had those in the late 80s. Anyways, yes, sorry. I was going to say that both our teams won over the weekend. Australia beat
Yes.
Wales and South Africa beat England. So we're all
Woohoo.
sitting pretty tonight.
Yeah.
Today, whatever. Sport, boring. Oh, sport ball. Now, Darren, we have had you on the show before, but we've not been one-on-one or two-on-one, as it were. So I think by way of introduction, the standard GI Joburg identikit must apply. We need to get out of you your favorite GI Joe and Cobra action figures and vehicles. However, given the, I suppose, the subject matter, should we delve into Action Force? Talk about your favorite
Well-
vehicles and figures from the 5 points of articulation Halitoy classics.
Well, yeah. I can do both if you really got plenty of time on your hands.
Whoa,
Buddy.
he's got lots of favorites.
Take it away and talk toys. Let's do it. People are wanting to listen to us talk about paper, but no. We always lead the charge with the plastic.
So, well, with GI Joe, it's on the Joe side, it's always going to be Bullhorn. I just love that figure from the moment I first saw it. The collapsible rifle was cool, and the megaphone that's actually a gas gun disguised as a megaphone. On the Cobra side, I'm gonna have to go with the original Iron Grenadier.
Disguised as a megaphone?
Yeah,
What?
it's a gas gun. Bullhorn's
How?
his megaphone. You look at it; it's written that it's a gas gun.
No way.
I never looked that up. I feel ridiculous to own that figure.
So I assume that's on the card information, like on the
I'm
side of
positive,
the
yeah.
card.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now I'm
News to
gonna
me,
have
man.
double check that.
Yeah, because he doesn't come with any other things resembling a weapon. So yes, the bullhorn.
He's got his big. He's got
Hey,
the
it's
huge
pulling double
rifle too.
Hang on. He's got the huge rifle. He's got a bullpup assault rifle.
Yep.
And then he's got the megaphone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I suppose out of
Mega
those three,
gasser.
interesting. Though you can shoot like I suppose like grenades, on the end of a rifle.
But it looks so much
Yeah.
cooler when you're doing it with your bullhorn.
Nice.
Yeah.
Bullhorn, aka Gas Man. Cool, awesome.
which
But
is
that's a
part of
unique
why he
pick
was
and
always.
not
Yeah. See, if you have a look on the actual site, it mentions the fact that the bullhorn is actually a gas gun.
right. Okay,
So,
so that's your modern GI Joe
yep.
figure. How about your vintage Action Force figure? Let's mix it up.
Uh, I'm gonna have to say it's always going to be Mr. Campbell, the leader of Z Force himself. Skip.
Very good. Skip Campbell. Now he had the red beret.
Yep.
He was dolled up in that green with the black camo over. Nice. Came with the most amazingly detailed rifle.
Yes. So
Love
it's
that.
a
What is it? An Enfal? It's the Belgian gun,
um
yeah. Mm.
yeah, and I mean I think the Action Force weapons were excellent weapons. I they did a lot of duty with my GI Joes as well because the rifles and that in them were beautifully detailed.
And very fine. Like the scaling was so good, the figures struggled to hold them because
Yeah.
the handles were not very big and their grips were the figure's hands were not
Yeah.
rigid,
Well,
so very
the,
loose grip. Did you use
it-
blue tack to keep them in place?
yeah. The blue tack used to little dobs of blue tack used to save the day. It was the same similar time
Always.
they released the A Team figures, and they had also really detailed but really
Yeah.
thin and small rifles, which were also a lot of fun.
Yeah, lovely to look at, but man, they must have gotten lost very, very quickly. Okay, give us a baddie. Let's do Cobra.
Well, that's going to be a big obvious one. It's going to be the original Iron Grenadier Trooper. Hashtag Team Iron Grenadier.
Excellent.
It just
Hey.
Represent, brother.
it was just an awesome looking troop. The black uniform, the red mask. It had a sword. You put him with.
Part Vader, part steampunk.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Very cool. Very, very
I,
cool.
I think it
Now,
was the
of
first one I
course, Gaz
managed to
shoots back
unkill.
with Team Viper. Yeah, I've got a
No.
handsome number of IGs myself these days. I think I'm up to 3 vintage ones, maybe 4. Okay, I've got a fourth with the wrong arms, but
Ah.
whatever. They're black, so they're pretty consistent, I guess. Okay. Do you have any O-ring IGs to hand still, or did they disappear?
Not to hand, but they are in a box down at my parents' place because I don't currently have room for them here.
Nice.
I know the feeling, man. Any chance that you? Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, buddy. It's space. Space is a concern.
Yeah, but yes, a good one.
Swamped by my collection. I'm like, oh, man, this stuff seeing the light of day. It's
It's a
awkward, man.
curse and a blessing.
Absolutely. To have a big collection and not have it currently with you means that it's kind of really, really squashed into ill-fitting spaces.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yes, much cardboard boxes. God.
Let's do a Red Shadows baddie. Or I don't know, were there other baddies? There weren't any other factions in the classic Pally toy line, were
No,
there? Baddie factions, at least.
but I mean, Red Laser was awesome. He was one of 2
Okay, well,
figures that were not just the
okay.
5 POA that I had, because I had him and then I had Quarrel, and both of them were actually reproed GI Joes. So technically, they were the first GI Joes I've ever had.
But unique characters. It wasn't just scarlet and green and black because that's what the figure was. No, they changed her nationality, they changed her speciality, they changed her assortment. I mean, she came with the ram.
Yeah,
Ditto with Red Laser. He might have looked like a red painted or red plastic version of Cobra Commander, but he came with was it the Laser
Laser-
Eliminator? What a
Laser
badass
Destroyer.
name.
Yes.
Okay, but I mean, for anyone listening, the, the laser destroyer.
Hey.
So yeah, for anyone listening, it was basically a red hell, which is sublime, of course.
Which
With
means
a
it
name
goes
like
faster
Laser
because it's red.
Destroyer, you know that. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It gets towed fast. It goes down
Yeah.
hills fast. Um, all right. Well, that just leaves us with. Well, no, it doesn't leave us with. I mean, we need to talk about vehicles from all the factions. So rattle off your four: your Red Shadows, your Action Force, your GI Joe, and your Cobra. Whew, the
Well,
full house.
starting with the shadows, it's going to have to be the shadow track. I had two of
Mm.
those, and they were gorgeous. Apart from the fact that the guns face backwards, which was kind of annoying, but still amazing vehicle. For Action Force, it will be the Ram, because a bike with a giant machine gun on the side you can't go wrong with, and Quarrel you can't go wrong
Mm.
with.
He agrees.
Then again, also being said though, the original troop transport was probably right up there as well because it just was awesome. It really well detailed and it was cool.
We're talking about the
Uh,
ATC, right?
yes, the ATC as opposed to the
The Z
APC.
Force. Mm. Very nice. Yeah, that was an
When you
interesting rabbit hole when I first discovered that the Action Force APC had a different name and was even sculpted differently.
yeah,
With like a medical bay and a turret that could be manned. Yeah,
That's so cool.
brilliant.
well, it
I did
needed
not
a
know that.
medical bay because in Action Force, as opposed to GI Joe, people actually got injured.
I would dispute that, Darren. I think people just got dead. There were no casualties, there were only deaths. Like, it was a ruthless, ruthless book. High body
It,
count, and high body count on both sides. Not just the
yeah,
baddies being disposable. You had plenty
no,
of cannon fodder on the good guys' side as well.
that's true. That's true. Now, Joe and Cobra vehicles. Hmm. Let's see. I love the Vamp. It's just it's a classic. It's brilliant. And I'm
Nice.
tempted to say the Stinger because, funnily enough, it's like the Vamp. But I'd have to say the Ferret. Ferret would probably have to beat that one.
Cool.
Just
Yeah, man. Love me some rubber tires.
yeah,
But I want to
and the
circle back to the Shadow
off-road fun.
Track because this is a vehicle that I've never had any dealing with whatsoever. Like
Gorgeous.
it's the AF5, so
Yeah.
it's a flying triangle or rectangle, depending on which facet you're looking at. It seats one guy facing forward and one guy manning the gun facing back. It deploys wings out of the sides, I suppose, mask style, and it's got 6 wheels. Like, it's bizarre,
Yeah.
but you had an affinity for it. Like, explain, because most people bang on about the Robo Skull, but you like the Shadow Track.
Yeah. And there's something about it. I mean, the ATV type thing, having 6 wheels, it's off road. It can go anywhere. Uh, Also, the fact that it was a lot easier to play with than the RoboSkull. RoboSkull, you're flying around, blah blah. You can have, well, I did have 2 Shadow Tracks racing around through the grounds, being chased by the Ram or
Mm.
what else at the time. So it was more playable for me. You could chase each other around. You could
Nice.
rise
Whereas
through the debt,
a Robo Skull is an aircraft, and
just
an
doing
aircraft would
swoosh,
remain.
swoosh, swoosh. And you could pile more shadows into it than
I
just
assumed
2.
the Shadow Track had rubber tires.
Yeah.
Okay. I assume it had rubber tires, Darren?
Yeah. Well, the ones I
Amazing.
did,
Yeah, no, that
did.
puts everything on a plateau. Right. Oh, was there some variation?
I do believe there was a variation that had plastic wheels as well, because I've heard people talk about plastic wheels, but
Oh no,
mine had
gross.
rubber wheels.
Good. Yeah, man. It's just so nice to be carefree about these things just rolling through the dirt and the mud without, plastic scratches, plastic scuffs, and it sounds the same kind of traction. But
Squeaky,
yeah,
squeaky,
no,
squeaky.
I love me some rubber tires.
Yeah.
Yeah, metal axles, of course. Outstanding, man. Now ironically, this recording comes on the back of the recently released issue 300 of the IDW. Well, it's the continuation of the Marvel run, but it is the GI Joe comic by Larry Hama. I know you've read it. As of today, I've read it as well. Without getting into spoilers, because we don't want to focus on that. What
Oh no,
was
that's a
your
time
feel
for
towards the wrap up?
well.
That's a time for another chat. It's a chat for
Yeah,
another time.
that's like a
Okay.
whole
So we
show.
can't even broach the topic. Very good. No, I know
Uh,
that I will,
That's a series of shows. It's a 3-part.
but then you can't leave the audience hanging like that, Dan. You got to give us
No.
some idea of your impression at least. Is it positive or negative?
It's leaning towards positive.
Come on, give us something.
It's leaning towards positive. It's okay.
Oh, well then. Then why is your view so controversial?
Because it's complicated.
Okay, it requires an
Because
entire devoted episode. Very good,
Absolutely.
very
We're
good.
gonna get you back to 82 or something.
the whole reason it's complicated is because of when redacted happens, and then the bit when they talk about redacted happening, and then the really bit at the end when redacted. So yes, and
Right.
until
Good,
we can talk about
I
it safely.
appreciate avoiding all spoilers.
So yes, until we can talk about it safely.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right, well then, I think it's time we delve into the topic for tonight's episode. World Enemy Number 1. This is a 1985 story arc from Battle Action Force, and I did put together a little bit of a summary. You guys can, I don't know, critique it if you want, but here we go. It was written by Jerry Day, and John Cooper was on the art duties, and my summary goes a little something like this. Baron Ironblood sends his red shadows to all four corners of the world to take hostages and extort ransom money from nations. The money is paid, but he has the shadows blow themselves up anyway with the hostages. All this heat makes Ironblood world enemy number 1, and the world gangs up on the Red Shadows. This is all part of an elaborate scheme for Ironblood to shed the Red Shadows, have them hunted and eliminated to the last man, while he assumes a new guise and starts his terror campaign afresh as Cobra Commander.
Ooh.
He begins recruiting his forces and assembling his leadership. Now, I know I missed out some plot beats, but basically that's what this is. It is the transitionary tale of Cobra Commander emerging from the ashes of Dr. Ironblood, Baron one of those things. Baron Ironblood and the Red Shadows. Did I get it right?
Yeah, no, that is
Woohoo!
it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Now, what is your affinity to this particular arc? What did it for you, Darren?
Well, you got to put it in the context. You go back to 1985, so 37 years ago. Whoa. Up until then, I had been collecting Battle Action or Action Force figures. I had the 5POA Action Force figures. I had Star Wars figures. That was it. They were my battlefield. I actually used to use Hoth troopers as what I called Snow Force, which was like Z Force, SAS. And that was all I had. And then out comes early, if I remember rightly, it was February. No, it was January. I went down to the comic store, picked up the latest issue, started reading this story. and here are all the characters I've got, the Red Shadows and that, getting killed off. And I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? What's happening here? And it's funny because it sort of coincided. They did well. It coincided with GI Joe toys starting to appear in Australia. So all of a sudden, I'm reading this book. I've been reading this comic for years, and they slowly introduced me into the toys almost about the same time as the toys started hitting the pegs. So it was a perfect storm when you put it that way. Then the rest, as they say, was history.
Did you embrace the new toys wholeheartedly, or did you feel like, no, I wanted more Red Shadows? Where are my Red Shadows?
I embraced the new ones, but I never let go of the old ones. I've always kept in all my canon and stuff like that. When Iron Blood went underground, I've had that the Black Major, which actually turned up in one of the comics later on, that the Black Major went underground himself and took control of the Shadows. So my Shadows stayed in playability. It was just now under the Black Major's command. I retired my Iron Blood figure, and I had Cobra Commander coming up, and then there was a third faction. Well, actually, there was a fourth faction because GI Joe became basically an American force helping Action Force, because I had more Action Force figures than GI Joe figures, so they were the sort of interlopers helping out, as opposed to being the main force for quite some time.
The story serves to introduce a number of key players. Painfully few from the GI Joe side of the thing. I mean, this is very much a focus on the villains, and to that end, we see the Cobra Commander persona emerge from Baron Ironblood, which is interesting. I suppose we'll get into it, but he starts speaking differently. He's undergone some kind of procedure that makes him immune to serpent venom. So he's really kind of adopted this new persona and gone to extreme lengths to kind of become a different man. But he kind of takes Destro with him, essentially, as a lackey. Red Jackal,
not
Destro's
exactly
previous
by
guy.
choice.
No, sure. Look, I mean, this is the plot point that I squarely skipped out on because I wanted to discuss it with you guys. In Action Force continuity, there was no Destro. He was a Russian driver who got horrifically mangled and then is imbued with bionic hands and a head, courtesy of Baron Ironblood. And then, along with the Red Shadows, is going to be kind of abandoned and eliminated. But he survives and tracks down Baron Ironblood / Cobra Commander and, I suppose, wants to kill him. And then they form this uneasy alliance because in the process of tracking down Cobra Commander, Red Jackal has managed to get the access codes to all of Baron Ironblood's money.
Yeah, it was an interesting way of bringing the character because I assume, well, Destro had already been set up as the sort of weapon supplier for Cobra through his. So in this one, what they did is by having him track him down by his accountants, he did the exact same. He came straight into being the exact same job in that he was the one that held all of Cobra Commander's money now. So he supplied the weapons to Cobra. He supplied the new uniforms to Cobra. So it was their way of explaining how come he is.
Strings.
Yeah, he was basically, you want to rule the world? Okay, I'll lend you some money today. Off you go and buy some tanks. And I'll try and kill you in the morning.
Where things get interesting for me is the collateral that Cobra Commander holds over Red Jackal / Destro is that he keeps a snake under a straw hat on Destro's head.
Yep.
So if Destro ever tries to double cross the commander, this snake will
It'll know to bite him.
It'll know.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah.
How does that work? Look, I will never be able to forget the image of Destro with a straw hat on his head, hunkered down, eating some rice.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
and the fact that he then kills the snake but carries it around under his hat anyway,
Just to
because
dupe the
otherwise
commander.
Cobra Commander would know that the hat was maybe sitting a little lower because there wasn't a snake underneath it.
Yeah, there's no snake in there.
And then
Oh,
he
man.
goes, "But Cobra Commander, I have found the one snake you're not immune to," and tries to kill him again.
Yeah. But I like
And-
that antagonism between Destro and Cobra Commander. It's like from the very offset, they aren't friends, but they're working together nonetheless.
They're literally trying to kill each other. It's not the most sophisticated kind of relationship, but it does, I guess, fit the tone of this whole thing because, man, oh man, Darren, this is a brisk read.
Mm.
Yeah.
It moves extremely quickly. Like the Red Shadows are dispatched all around the world. And I love the fact that Action Force, because Iron Blood and the Red Shadows are enemy number one, world enemy number one, they enlist the aid of nations that would not necessarily be allies.
Yeah.
So at one point, the SAS are doing a jump with like Russian paratroopers.
Well, USSR.
Amazing, yeah. In the height of the
Yeah.
Cold War. There's a sequence with Q-Force using Japanese Marines, but I suppose in the 80s, the Japanese were the pals of the West anyway. So, but just this lovely appreciation of like Action Force are all too keen to enlist the aid of foreign nations' armies.
Well,
To bring
that was one of the things that sort of came through with the original, with the Battle Action Force series. Action Force itself was a small team, and they'd go to whatever country they had to fight the Red Shadows in, and they'd get locals. Operation Bloodhound, when they're in South America, they use a lot of the local military forces to supplement the SAS and the Z Force troops because they're a small team. They're like the elite core, the leadership, but they use local.
Look, cynically, it's once again so the good guys can have cannon fodder. It's like,
Well, yeah, that's true too, but it looks
we
good.
want to show casualties on both sides. Make sure they're not the all important toys that the kids are buying. Make sure they're sort of local militia and armies that just dime a dozen.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, the fact that it sort of happens at breakneck speed. This was when the Palatoy stuff was really being wound up. They had to move the comic along because that comic toy supporting each other. It would not have worked if they'd kept this story going along without the toys supporting it, and vice
Yeah,
versa.
so they had to like very quickly shoehorn in all of the new Cobra, like the Cobra organization itself, the hierarchy of Cobra. It's very quick. Like it feels very fast because I mean I think it's like 4 issues and it's came out weekly. So I imagine by the end of 1 month, suddenly you've shifted from the Red Shadows to it being Cobra.
Yeah. And you've all of a sudden got Major Blood, you've got Storm Shadow, you've got Firefly. Who are these guys? Oh, right, he's an ex-Foreign Legion guy from Australia who shoots his own troops a lot. He's a Japanese criminal / ninja. Firefly.
Yeah, he's on the run. He can't stay in
He's on
Japan
the run.
anymore. They won't
Yeah.
even help him anymore.
Yeah,
And those
no
are just
great
the kind of
ninja
the high
clan.
flyers. Those are the high flyers and high profile Cobra members that Destro is able to recruit. But what I'm delighted to see is that he sends a message to the sort of the underbelly of the world to basically call for recruits to come to the Cobra Temple and I suppose join this organization. Of course, Cobra Commanders lace the whole place with booby traps and venomous snakes, so only the fittest survive. But one of the groups that are quite keen to join up with Cobra are a bunch of South Africans.
Hey, well, Southern Africa, so they could have been from what were they called at the time, Rhodesia.
They're white guys in Southern Africa. They're ex Defense Force guys, reccees and troopies, and unsavory soldiers, let's say, in the world's eyes. That's a lot of fun.
See, this is it. This is where we all have our connection. South Africans, Australians, we're all evidently the ones that joined Cobra.
We are the criminals, yeah.
Though I'm gonna need you to translate at least 2 of Major Blood's colloquialisms, Darren.
Oh dear.
At one point, he calls someone a cobber. What is a
Yep.
cobber? Okay.
That is your mate, a friend. It's a very generic way to go. Oh, he's a good guy. He's a cobber, or someone I don't necessarily know. But he's using that just because he doesn't know who they are and doesn't have a name for them. So it's, hey you, hey cobber.
Right, hey cobber. And then Bonza, Bonzer.
Yep, Bonza is something that's good, terrific, wonderful. It's great. It's Bonza.
It's Bonza. I mean, that just goes to the depth of Aussie colloquialisms. I might have spent 2.5 years in your country, and I'd never heard those two before.
But obviously you didn't do something that was Bonza, did you?
Yeah, you never did anything good while you were there. But what that also speaks to is the level of research and kind of forethought that the writer and the entire, obviously, like editorial team has when they crafted these stories. I mean, there's a lot of forethought that goes into.
They were writing in the UK. You can't go to a local pub without bumping into an Australian.
No, okay, but like it feels like there really is a lot of thought going into like how do we, the best way possible, believably make this transition from Red Shadows to Cobra. And I mean, those are the small little details, and those are actual words that Australians really do use.
Indeed.
And the use of troops, from certain parts of the world where there were mercenaries, Southern Africa. Japan was another place that they were trying to get people from.
Yeah, but did you notice like the criminal underworld of Japan? Forget about it.
We're too cool.
I mean, how they not introduce, but Major Blood, you come across him later on sitting there singing Waltzing Matilda on a bank.
Yes.
Yeah. Don't you always just do that? Like,
apparently that's the thing.
Break into Waltzing Matilda spontaneously.
It's a secret. We're not supposed to let that out. I mean, someone must have talked way back then.
And now they are no more.
You talk about the training of the Cobra troops. It's a good callback. There was an issue back in 1983, which is literally the entire story arc is a group of Red Shadows going through booby traps to join Baron Ironblood, and they start with like 50 and 7 survive. So it was nice that they kept that. Like, this is a thing that's. They talk about how much Cobra Commander changed. He still had certain things that didn't change. That they get their troops via attrition.
I don't know how they keep their morale up. I mean, look, it made it sound like these are being recruited as mercenaries. Then surely their only motivation is to line their pockets. They don't want to stick their necks out as far as that. Like, what? I don't know. We can't really talk about ideology because this is a kid's cartoon and these are toys. But to have these fanatical bad guys that come from no nation in particular to all align so strongly that they're going to face almost imminent death every day because their leader is a madman who would just dispatch them I don't know. Who are these people? It's not really a question you can ask, I guess.
They do mention, I think a couple of times, 1 or 2 of the troops talk about the fact, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the promise of so much money, or, it was all the greed. If we get through this, we're going to be set up for life. Oh, well, one less that's going to get some of that money. That's more money for me.
Right. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking about this all too hard. I mean, like, really, there are plenty of gung-ho guns out there just wanting to, I don't know, cause a ruckus, get paid, and move on.
And that uniform was so cool. Who doesn't want to wear that sexy blue uniform?
Blue uniform, yeah, exactly.
The color of venom taking
Yes.
hold. I think Cobra Commander says at
That's
one
what he
point.
calls it, yeah.
That's the one. I do love that bit there. Yes, we're all going to sit and have dinner surrounded by cobras. They just hang out with us now.
Well, that is Cobra Commander's collateral. Or mind you, at
Yeah.
that point he kind of immunized his inner circle against the venom. But like he keeps the cobras crawling around his base so that if anyone steps out of line, I mean, surely he must have some kind of mental control over them then. To have a wild animal do your bidding.
Yeah,
Is that
I mean
part of his condition?
they never say anything, but at least in the Action Force side, before it became GI Joe proper, you often see Cobra Commander with a bunch of live cobras just hanging out. So
Mm.
he did have that more affinity with snakes, as opposed to now he's Cobra Commander and he wears a uniform and he's got Cobra logos, but you don't see a whole heap of snakes just sitting at his coffee table, you know, catching
So
up
much
on the
more
news.
exciting than a used car salesman, right?
No,
Yes.
very much so. And I like that they really do put the focus on recontextualizing the threat that the counter-terrorist units have to face. That's why you do take your time, a month's worth of stories, or at least one story, to actually really set these guys up and be like, this is the toughest enemies that they have ever faced. Even more tougher than any organization that the Baron has set up before. And then I suppose, I imagine that the following stories will be the setup of Action Force but there is a little bit of it in here where they are starting to get help from America. And I
Yep.
suppose as you go
As it
along, the American help becomes more more major,
pronounced.
in there. Pronounced,
Yeah,
yes.
You said major.
A
It's Major Flag. Is
that's right. Major flag.
is this a precursor to Admiral Flag? No, what am I saying? General Flag.
General. Yeah,
General
that's
Flag. Sorry. I'm thinking of Keelhaul for some reason. I suppose the fact that
No.
he's in a SR-71 Blackbird and is posited as the pilot of this. He's a major. He's a spy. He's
Don't
on his
forget,
way to becoming General Flag.
it's also the 1980s, and it's a British comic. We all thought that Americans flew around in SR-71s as transport aircraft back then. You know,
Amazing. Well, it certainly, I don't know, beats out any other kind of aircraft. You're not likely to find a faster way around the planet.
I mean, look at the
Oh,
movie
man.
Darryl. The kid steals an SR-71. I mean,
Wish
what more can I
fulfillment
say?
much.
A
I love how they've got like a chant that
Yep.
Cobra seems to be doing, which I think has never surfaced ever again. But literally, they're saying, Cobra, Cobra, strike like the Cobra, 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 strike like the Cobra. You can just imagine them going through their like martial arts drills while chanting this at the top of their lungs.
Yep.
Amazing.
Building up there a spirit de corps.
Mm.
Which also kind of speaks to the other motives that they might have. Yes, it might initially have been money and showed that would pull them through to getting to the temple. But after surviving those grueling tests, that probably breaks you down to a certain degree as well. And now you are as fanatical as you need you to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got those people that obviously they're highly motivated because they've made it to there. Now you indoctrinate them, and officially you've got really good troops. Somehow GI Joe, armored by plot, keeps beating them, but they are really good troops.
Yeah, man.
And there's so many. Like again, it is very much of the time. You look at Major Blood with his wonderful, casual 1980s racism. It's great.
Yes, that was.
Oh, he's not the only one, but yes, absolutely. It's not even an eyelid battered at the kind of vernacular that gets dropped.
Evidently, that was just
Mm.
what all Australians were like back then.
Apparently so.
I mean, they played up stereotypes so much. A lot of characters were almost caricatures of the stereotypes.
Mm. But that also helps, I mean, establish them easier in your mind because
Yeah.
you can kind of like you connect them with other versions. Yeah, it makes it so much easier for them to be a real person for you. And I mean, yeah, as Steven said, a breakneck pace. Like we start with the shadows and we end with Cobra, fully established.
And it doesn't seek to do anything else story wise other than that, just to bridge this gap. It's to serve as an introduction of the new characters, and this is the new regime moving forward. They don't attempt to really kind of stage a major plot. I think there were some attacks on like oil fields, but for the most part, and the new saboteur Firefly succeeds in blowing up Major Flag's SR-71 while it's parked on the ground, almost killing the Major. But apart
Almost.
from that, this is very much just a kind of a line in the sand between the past and now, and doesn't want to serve to do anything beyond that. So, I mean, if you're looking for a conclusive story, this isn't that.
Mm.
And yet,
No.
this is the one that you were itching to talk about, Darren.
Well,
I mean, was it mind blowing, or was it just kind of? Oh, did you get what was going on? Did you understand I suppose the practicalities of it? That this is a break from an old toy line into a new, or was it just like, I'm gonna lap this story up, see where this goes?
well, as you said earlier, because it was coming out weekly, they could afford to throw it at you so quickly. I mean, in a way, it's one issue of a monthly comic. It's one way of looking at it. Instead of being all that story together, call it one issue of a monthly comic. But where it fits, or why it always sits so important, is it to me, it is the turning point for me. 1985, I went from collecting Star Wars and Action Force and stuff like that to pivoting almost entirely and completely over to collecting GI Joe. So that is the genesis of my GI Joe collection.
Nice.
And I can kind of believe it as an origin story for Cobra. Because it really feels more real than like just like, oh, by the way, here's Destro and the Baroness and they're this kind of fumbly terrorist organization. Like this could be like an actual origin for Cobra that we know, but more like brutal.
Yeah. I mean, in
I
my
think
head
it's a
canon,
great
it's
concept.
always been the one that I've used.
Mm.
Whenever I played as a kid, anything like that, whenever I've written stories, that is the head canon. That's where they came from. GI Joe was an American force that was brought in to assist Action Force because of Cobra.
It has got an appeal, definitely, and it's kind of put me in a bit of a bind. I don't know what kind of canon I observe anymore. It's tough to distinguish these things because I didn't have a kind of a geographical bent. Like I didn't grow up with the cartoon, and I didn't grow up with too many of the original comic books. And to be perfectly honest, if you took the Palitoy, the Z Force, Q Force, Space Force, and SAS guys to be this separate and distinct force as they were, then there's absolutely nothing stopping you from GI Joe continuity and original Action Force continuity hanging together quite neatly. They both had separate pursuits and separate enemies, and then when the Red Shadows were eliminated in this very story, World Enemy Number One, then their objectives aligned. So
yeah,
absolutely, Aaron. I see credit to the way you view these things, and personally, I mean, I'm pretty sure every single person from the UK and now Australia who grew up with Battle Action Force probably share your view. I don't think anyone would like just turf out all that continuity in favor of the Marvel US continuity.
yeah. I mean, the Marvel US continuity is great, and I love the storylines, but it was like I have all these other established characters that I know and love as well, and I'm not going to, sacrifice them or marginalize them because new ones have replaced them. They've just joined them.
Hmm.
And it was cool too because, I mean, they did work well together. The toys worked well together. The stories worked well. You have Cobra Troopers fighting at one stage there, call it mid to late 80s. You should have seen it. I had the GI Joe and the Action Force working together, but at any one time they were up against the Black Marshal and his Red Shadows, Cobra Commander, and the Cobra Forces, and then of course Destro and the Iron Grenadiers. So many different forces to fight each other.
Yeah, man. I think having more than one antagonist just makes for such an interesting plot line narrative. There could be deals struck, uniting against a common enemy. Good times for all. We do have some comments from the BurgForce I'd like to address. Outback Stu, greetings Outback. Cobra would have no problems recruiting from where I grew up. Man, rough part of town. And Stu also says that he's mixed between the comic and cartoon. He has his own canon, however. Most of how I played took place after the war was over. The Joes won. Or did they? Oh, man. Stu, we need to get you back on the show, man, because I have had some inklings of this canon, and it's terrific. You had me really on tenterhooks when you said that Crankcase is Outback's dad. Awesome. If I'm remembering correctly,
Cool.
it's so cool to have like this familial connection between Joes, because that's something that we didn't actually have. There wasn't this line of, unless like Joe Colton sired one of the GI Joes that I'm not aware of. It's possible.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Several
but yeah,
of them.
man.
But
Yeah.
I think it. I mean, it makes it more complicated and a rich like space to play in with this continuity of Action Force. We have Action Force kind of like, yes, GI Joe existed somewhere else, but they were fighting their own things in America, for American interests. But then, the new UN needed them to come on board to fight Baron Ironblood, who'd become Cobra Commander. It does become like a more richer and interesting place to play in and for stories to come out of. I mean, I started reading the Battle Action Force comic books, but this makes me actually want to like properly read them. I keep going.
It's pretty
well worth
rewarding.
it.
Mm.
I mean,
And
as,
the art
as
is
Steve said,
gorgeous,
it's
man, I have
violent,
to say.
but fun.
Like,
Yeah.
the art makes it just a sublime read. Anyone scratching their heads wanting to know where they can find these, well, the link is in the description to this particular story arc.
Down
But
below.
bloodforthebaron.com is a free resource, and it is pretty damn comprehensive. If you can get past the rather chintzy reader. But look, it's all there and it's all free at your fingertips. So use that resource. Get acquainted with the bloodthirsty Action Force approach. I mean, all these guys were, what are they, 2000 AD writers? Or even before that, they were kind of war books writers. Like they wrote those black and white World War II, World War One digests. So they were all too accustomed to like disposable good guys. Bad guys and good guys.
A lot of them came from a comic called Action, which was a late 70s comic, which is kind of infamous. 3 episodes in, they banned it and made them rewrite the stories because they were too violent. There's an interesting thing about Action. It's called Action, the world's most violent comic or something. And it's a very good read if you get a chance.
I take it there was no comics code in play in the United Kingdom.
Well, by fact, there was, because they got 3 episodes in or issues in, and they stopped it. They said, no more. Tone down these stories, or you're out.
You mean, like the enemy forces killing themselves is toned down?
Yes.
Whoa. Whoa. Yeah.
There's a going completely off topic with Action. In the first comics, there was a a run story called Hookjaw, and it was literally about a shark ripping people to pieces. That's the plot. So yeah, the people killing themselves and that was toned down.
That's wild. But I mean, it really does, at least it speaks to the fanaticism that his method of training his troops does instill. And he carried that forward. He changed his name, but he did carry the forward into Cobra.
It's funny.
Wild.
It's like when you read I read the Marvel comics, and I part of the back of my mind's always going, wow, this is really safe and really, no one's getting really hurt. Oh, that's lucky. And when they got to the benzene arc and Joe's actually died, I'm like, ooh, yay! And
Finally, it's real.
about
Finally,
time.
we killed the good guys.
They're carrying
Oh.
guns that actually do things now. Amazing.
It's a fine line to be drawn. I mean, our scribe of choice, Mr. Larry Harmer, always believed that to have a war comic without any death was morally bankrupt. It would have no consequences. Though characters of his have no trouble being resurrected from the dead, so I don't know what kind of consequence death is anymore. Redacted. So yes, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Battle Action Force guys who die stay dead.
See, and because that's the thing with the cartoon, the GI Joe cartoon, because it was a cartoon as opposed to a comic, the fact that they shot lasers at each other and everyone parachuted out was fine. In the way I'd grown up, in a cartoon, everyone survives. In a comic book, no, they don't. So,
True.
Yeah, that was where, again, the Harmer Marvel was just not quite perfect. If they had that sense of real danger or real risk, it would have been just a couple of notches higher.
Kill someone's favorite action figure on average 1 per issue. Awesome.
Well, I mean, the cartoon. I mean, if the cartoon could have been more adult, I mean, they definitely had a good turnover of characters. There was no explanation ever given as to like why later in the cartoon series you didn't see the characters you used to see.
No,
you can assume they're all dead.
They wound up in the Worlds Without End alternate reality, and they made beautiful children with the Baroness.
They're on a different level of the pit in the secretarial pool.
Yeah, they're just still staying down there. They're too old to like keep fighting, I guess.
Well, they did that in the comic book even. I mean, like all the OG 13, save for a few.
That's right.
Desk jobs.
Oh,
there you go.
No.
See?
As Outback Stew says in the comments, heroes never die. But I would add to that, yeah, they just get desk jobs and put their feet up.
Yeah, give them a hero send-off. I mean, really, I can't accept that. I can't imagine like Flint or like like Stalker sitting at a desk somewhere. Like, can't he just go spend time with his family now? He's served.
I mean,
well, this is a question that I've always wanted to ask. Like, do any of the Joes have family? They're a little too devoted to the cause. They're all A-types. They're all just gung-ho, man.
Oh, gung-ho might actually have a family. I could see him having families.
I can. I mean, he's got an extended family, brothers and sisters.
I would say in Gung-ho's case, it's a kind of family that he wanted to run away from. Mind you, there was that cartoon episode. Was it Captives of Cobra? Was Gung-ho one of them? Oh, I'm hazy on the cartoon, but yeah, probably he's just like Gambit. He's got this kind of bunch of.
It's an extended family just sitting out there in the
bayou,
swamps, making their Cajun food.
Our cousin is a gator.
Darren, do you want to segue us into another section of our chat? I'd love to know if you got any new shit kicking around. You recently had a birthday, didn't you?
Happy birthday,
belatedly.
Thank you.
To you. Did Santa birthday claws? Put anything in your stocking?
Were you
Well,
bonkers for
Bonza?
Bonza on your birthday?
Was that Bonza?
Was it Bonza?
it was fully Bonza, mate. Fully Bonza.
Oh, we got it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bonza. Well, apart from the fact that I got the new Mandalorian Starfighter to go with my Mandalorian Razor Crest
Ah, nice.
In Lego, yes.
in Legos.
Very good.
But on the Joe front, I have confirmed, although they're still swimming here, that I do have a Mindbender on the way of the classified
Excellent.
variety
Ooh.
to go with my slowly growing army of bats. And I've got a Tiger Force Outback and a Tiger Force Duke with the Ram, which
Very nice.
is also. But now that I've seen there's an actual original Outback, I'm like, I got the wrong one.
Oh, boo.
Oopsie.
Don't
So
say
I'm gonna-
that. Outback Stu has got his classified Tiger Force Outback ordered. Wish me luck.
Yeah,
Good luck.
mine's on the way here too. So
Hey.
What is your source? Where are you purchasing them from?
Was it a secret?
I think I couldn't. Did I get that one from Dorkside? It's usually about 2 or 3 different places I've got fingers in trying to find anything that's available that'll actually ship to Australia. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And cost an arm and a leg, no doubt.
Yeah.
Hey,
Stephen, you should have helped everyone in Australia out by picking up all those extra toys in Singapore when you went through.
That's right.
Well, I don't know if I'm at liberty to say this, but I have one source that says that all those surplus classified figures in Singapore will be finding their way to Australia.
Oh,
So stick around. You might be seeing them turn up at Toy World.
Toy World,
your
Toy
local
Mate.
grocery store.
Mm-hmm. All that.
So yeah, so
Toy
I've got-
Mate,
Toy
that's
Mate.
it. Bloody hell, not Toy.
Wow.
it's Australian. It's
Oh, wait,
Mate.
wait. I'm getting confused. South Africa has a Toy Kingdom. Australia has Toy Mate and Toy World, but
Yep.
not Toys R Us. Boom. It gets complicated.
There are a
man.
couple of Toys R Us, but they never really spread out. They couldn't compete with Toy World or Toy Mate.
Interesting. They managed to avoid closure. Bizarre.
Well, it could be franchised out. I mean, we still have Toys R Us in South Africa.
Yeah, and I mean, in the East, Toys R Us still dominates. Like, yeah, Hong Kong, China,
Because
Jakarta.
growing up, it was always through the like 80s and 90s. We had 2 big chains, and one was Toy World, and the other one was Uncle Pete's Toys. And
Whoa!
they were
Guess
Australian
which one
wide.
went out of business?
Ran out of toys.
Oh yeah,
Damn.
I think they were actually swallowed up. Uncle Pete's was swallowed up by Toy Mate, which is why we now have the evil 2
And
Toy World and Toy Mate.
Toy Mate is effectively Toys R Us. I mean, they have huge stores.
Yeah.
With the kind of the racetrack, basically, where you take all the skateboards and scooters and stuff down, and massive like playground equipment on sale. That's the kind of scale of operation that Toy Mate has. A little couple of aisles devoted to action figures, but mainly doll houses and learning toys and baby crap.
Rubbish.
And yeah, in one case, it's literally a giant wall of pop vinyls, maybe
Wow.
200, 300 or something. Just this wall.
I'll never understand it, but to each
yeah.
their own, right?
It's true.
Yeah.
I really have the best ones.
Yeah. But let's talk about something else that you've recently got, Rob. So you've got your hands on some classified figures, some more at least,
I did.
and given them a solid
Ooh.
play test. What is your opinion on the Bat and the Alley Viper?
I think they're fantastic figures. I mean, I can't stop saying it. The Bat, it just feels like an upsized 3 3/4 inch Bat.
Yep.
It feels very accurate to the original figure. Both of them do, really. They're really a lot of fun. I love how much equipment the Alley Viper comes with. It feels. They both feel authentic. Like they've really stepped up their game. Like moving from the original classified figures, which are like sci-fi weirdos to to actually like just upsize the original figures, and we will buy them.
I like the fact with the bat how you can actually replace either hand now. You don't have
Yes.
to. It's so you can have both. Like one of mine's got the claw and the grenade launcher.
Oh, it just makes sense to be able to do that.
Some questions should never be asked, but I'm that kind of guy, so what a troll. If you have dual wielding attachments, how do you replace them?
That's why you
How's
have a
the bat
Dr.
right-
Mindbender.
Yeah, you see, that's why he needs the Dr. Mindbender. So but he equips them before they leave base, so he doesn't swap out the hands once he's out in the field.
You've just got to have a battle buddy, a techno bat running around behind your battle android trooper, like assisting them with weapons changes. Oh,
Yeah.
jeez. Hideous.
Yeah, but doable.
Doable.
They are mission specific.
Yeah, exactly. You just send them out with the specific things on there. But Stephen, have you received anything?
Totally
new?
obvious. Steve.
Yes, Darren.
It was
Oh,
totally
sorry.
obvious.
Exactly.
Dumbass.
Come on, it makes sense.
Well-
You have to make us explain it.
It is with some irony, or not even. It is just a coincidence, a cosmic coincidence that we're talking to you tonight, Darren. You are a token Aussie, because this weekend I went to a local toy store, probably like the biggest vintage toy market or single retailer in the country, and took Paul and Rob with me, which was delightful to see how their faces lit up, seeing all this
Amazing.
loot. But I had found for myself a week prior a Sky Mate,
Oh yeah.
complete with his yellow bow and
Glider?
arrow, or his yellow bow, and his little pink boomerang. So I have that extremely hard to find piece at long last. Not that I ever felt I needed it. Like, my life is not improved by having this ridiculous piece of expensive plastic, but I guess it's nice. I can tick that box. It's anyone who does collect vintage GI Joe knows how insanely difficult it is to find a complete Skymate. So I'm a happy
Yeah.
boy, and as I say, it lines up nicely with having an Aussie on the show.
Yeah,
So
you got
yeah.
yourself a little pink boomer.
There you go.
Yeah. Bloody Bonza. That's what it is.
Bloody
Bonza.
Bonza. Like, is there anything authentic on his uniform whatsoever? I was looking at it today and thinking, like, yeah, the moustache is maybe authentic. I've seen many a moustache on Australian men and
Yep.
some ladies. But he should have a mullet to go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that could work.
That would work. Why has he got this neat? I suppose it's got to be
You
military.
you have to sculpt it as well.
Yeah, it would look weird because it would not be a separate rubber piece. It would just be like this, like, stumpy thing that ends.
They should have tried, though.
They should have tried.
The writers of Action Force made an effort to find, Australian colloquialisms. The toys
Yeah,
could
and
have at least made him look like an Australian.
Yeah, and the fact that it's Daniel T. Toner, it should have been Dazza.
Oh, well, there's nothing stopping it from being Dazza. But you see, he doesn't have any other Australians on the team to dub him with this nickname. Like,
He would
You
have
guys are
introduced himself like that.
you're incorrigible, man. Like, you can't ever be your real name in Oz. You're a sort of a nickname that's then, like, shortened and then remixed and made backwards, and like you wind up with this handle that bears no resemblance to your original name.
I've been a Dazza all my life. That's just who
Dazza.
I am. Dazza.
Right.
I think I was about 3 or 4 minutes old before I was christened Dazza. So my uncle did it.
They're
straight
like,
off the
they
bat.
already forgot your name.
Yeah, my mum
All
came out. She
right.
goes, "Yes, brand new kid named Darren." My uncle went Dazza, and that was it.
Dazza.
The doctor immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
That's
Dazza.
a Dazza,
He's a real
Aussie.
stunner.
They got some
Yeah.
beer. They baptized me with some beer, and I was off.
Which just standard practice down under, don't you know?
Obviously.
That's right.
Obviously. Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
All right. We have a question. Thank you, Outback Stew. Terminator versus bats. Who wins?
Ah,
Eesh. I
Standard
don't know. The
T800.
Terminator was.
You talking about the
Yeah,
T1
but
T800?
I assumed standard
Hmm.
T800, maybe just the endoskeleton. But the Terminator was always made to be so impervious,
relentless.
relentless, and just
Resilient?
like it could
Yeah, resilient.
sustain enormous amounts of damage and keep on killing. Keep pursuing its objective to terminate. Whereas the Battle Android Troopers, sadly, were always cannon fodder. They were always like easily dispatched, and that was their function in a kids cartoon, to just be this enemy that you can just mow down an entire row of and have total impunity.
What
So
was the
yeah, I'm gonna
line?
vote
What was the
Terminator.
line from the comic when they were attacking the GI Joe headquarters? They throwing the bats out, and one of the Techno Vipers says to the other one, some of them get total, but it doesn't matter because it costs cheaper to make a bat than to train a trooper.
Yeah.
That's issue 130. That is the very first issue of GI Joe I ever read. Thank you, Darren. Good
Whoa.
callback, man. Absolutely. Some of them get totaled. So what? It costs
Yeah.
less than to train and maintain a Viper, I think is
Yeah.
the quote verbatim. Clearly, I read that issue way too many times.
Oh, it was one of the best issues too, because again, you have Cobra Commander actually shooting one of his subordinates.
He pulls a gun on the Viper, but I don't
I'm
think
sure. I thought you
pulls the
see
trigger.
casings
Off
come out.
panel.
I thought you
You're
Off
see
thinking of
panel.
casings come
issue
out.
119, written
Oh, it's
by
that
Herb
one.
Trophy. Hmm.
He didn't
'Cause
mind
it's the-
killing cobras.
Because I thought they did that with the bit where the guy says, "Oh, this has been too easy," and he goes, "I won't stand for that in the ranks," and shoots him.
Oh, wow. Jeez, okay, maybe that was the issue after 130, because hey, in my comic reading days as a child, like I'd pick up a scrappy issue here and there. There weren't comic book stores in South Africa, so we basically read whatever we could find at newsagents and cafes.
Randoms, yeah.
Random. So like I never read issue 131. Imagine my disappointment, Darren, as an adult reading that issue and realizing exactly what it's a giant fuck you to the audience, basically. Like Cobra Commander's mission was never to destroy the pit in the first place. It was just to
No,
kind of test his, I don't know, his jamming
stealth
technology.
is stealthy technology. Yeah, I just
Hmm.
love that. It's
Silly.
like he could have quite happily done it, but we'll pull back now. Yeah, just in case.
No, man, come on, just do it. But no, I commiserate with Larry at that point, because I was constantly the guy in my childhood playtimes trying to put the brakes on my very, very enthusiastic friends who were like, he's right in my sights, so let me just pull the trigger,
Can't I
kill the
just kill
commander,
him?
and that'll be the end of the game. I'm like, I'm trying to create longevity. I'm trying to create continuity. I want this game to progress. I want to be able to meet up next weekend and pick up where we left off and not have to start again from the start.
Yeah, reset.
Oh,
That's
boo.
not good.
So yes, so Larry was like, basically he had to find his way out of this ridiculous plot dead end. It's like, yes, Cobra could win the day, but no, they've got to
But
make
no.
it all about something else.
It was so close.
We've got another matchup from Stu. You've on all cylinders today, sir. Thank you. Crocmaster versus Crocodile Dundee. Darren, what do you say, buddy?
Well, I think that what's going to happen is he will release the Crocs. Crocodile Dundee will tame the Crocs, and the two of them will realize they have so much in common that they go out and have a beer or several.
Huh. That's a good twist.
But Crocmaster strikes me as such a weirdo.
Have you watched Crocodile Dundee?
Okay, point taken.
I haven't in many, many years.
Okay, all right. No, maybe they'll be bros, man.
I could see it. They both would
Well, if I
enjoy
had
hanging
to
out
choose,
with lots of crocodiles.
personally, I would choose Crocodile Dundee because his knife is got to be bigger than Crocmaster's.
It is a big knife.
Crocmaster's whip is bigger than Dundee's. I don't know, man. Like it seems like they might have a lot to talk about. So yeah, they were probably
I think
a
Darren's suggestion
blossoming
is the best.
bromance. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But yeah, but no. Sorry, Stu, I forgot to answer. Yes, the T800 would win that fight just because it lasts longer and it's got better weapons because they're from the future.
Yeah, absolutely. What about? Yeah, it's tough. What if there were like a whole bunch of bats? Would they eventually win?
You'd need a lot of bats,
You need a lot of bats.
but
Yep,
they
they're
do have a
starting to
lot of bats.
explode like paper mache. Just.
I mean, eventually those explosions are going to wear down the T800.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think T800 will still win for sure.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I think I'll move the agenda on to. Oh dear, Rob. Do you have a love and scoopful from last episode that you'd like to
Well-
bring to our attention?
Well, not from the last episode, actually, from the
Oh.
last video that we put out, which I
Okay.
thought was more interesting. We talked about the Action Force sticker album that came from out of Greece.
Mm.
And it was amusing because someone actually decided to do the quick kick yoga routine along with us. And that was Buttface69. He says, I just did quick kicks yoga with you guys after my morning gym trip. I feel like I've got to get tough now.
Joe.
Yo, Joe.
Oh man. Yeah. So for anyone scratching their heads,
Proper experience.
Rob and I happened upon this sticker album, which was what you would use all the stickers that you got in action figure card backs, or not card backs, inside the bubbles, in fact. If you had an Action Force figure from, I think, about 1988 or 89. This sticker album has a bunch of interesting things. It's got a chart giving you Morse code and the phonetic alphabet. It's got Beachhead's survival
You're
techniques.
spoiling the whole video.
It's got this amazing catalog shot of like the action figures posed very cleverly. They're kind of interacting with one another. Like at one point, a Shipwreck is using his line to kind of hook a Dreadnought and yank his feet out from under him. So clearly the photographer had a blast setting that up. But the thing that really excited me was there was a quick kick workout routine. And I forced Rob to do it. So we run outside into the garden and
Forced me.
and we did these exercises. I mean, we didn't do high reps, so we didn't really get the pump, but it was fun to run around on the lawn and I don't know, jog on the spot and do downward dog with my buddy. That's a yoga pose, guys. Get your mind out of the gutter. Yeah.
It was bosses though.
Awesome. If you would like a comment read out by Rob, be sure to comment on this YouTube video or any of our vids. It might catch Robbie's eye and you might be his loving scoopful of the week. Right on, man. On the way out, I would just like to thank our patrons, the guys that support us over on patreon.com. They are our BurgForce, and we are very grateful for them. They keep us
Especially
in
that fourth guy.
StreamYard. Yep,
Awesome.
that
Yeah.
guy.
He's a nice guy. I like him.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
Help pay for the various ginches and gonches that GI
coppers.
Joburg needs. Plus, occasionally even afford us a new toy or two, perhaps.
Aw.
Thanks, BurgForce. And I guess the elephant in the room is the fact that Paul is not here. He is driving from Cape Town to Johannesburg as we speak. He's going home, ladies and gentlemen, after a wild week with Rob and I.
Whoa.
We did some things, and we will be unveiling them,
And
releasing
filmed it.
them.
Hell yeah. No, we definitely filmed some of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. But we can put on this,
Just not the incriminating parts.
That's right.
So
They'll
Paul
be starting
sends
their
his regards and
Joburg
his
only
apologies.
fans on the next channel.
Oh man.
Over at Bongos.
And finally, Darren, thank you for joining us. Codename
Thank you for having
Railroad.
me.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for
Thank you for
enlightening us.
suggesting. I mean, the topic. I had a really good time reading that story, and it has kind
I'm
of like
glad.
opened up my eyes as to like how more interesting a world GI Joe could be with having known the story earlier on. I think.
I would encourage anyone listening to this who hasn't taken the plunge, as it were,
Yeah.
and checked
Blood
out
for the Baron. There's nothing stopping you. You literally don't have to pay a dime. It's all there online for free. read it. It really is fantastic stuff. Consistently good art, and yeah,
I always regard it as a kind of a palate cleanser because, I mean, without once again getting into too much detail, the world of ARA in print, in comic books, has somehow started to get a little stale. The same tropes and ideas and concepts and characters being recycled ad infinitum. You flip
And
the script,
recycled.
you
And
head
recycled.
over the pond, and back in the 80s, like there was a totally different appreciation, a totally different vein of GI Joe / Action Force happening concurrently. It's an interesting what if to think if that was perhaps the dominant canon, and we've got a further continuation of that. Hey, maybe it would be an interesting future topic.
And as you say, it complements the backstory complements the ARA and GI Joe stories anyway, so it works well.
And might just send you down the rabbit hole of a whole new collection of toys.
Yay!
I mean, if the recent Skeletron Roboskull fundraiser hasn't already whet your appetites, yeah, there's a treasure trove out there, guys.
Yeah, they need to
Next week-
redo the Shadow Track for me.
Yes. There's an interesting vehicle there. I don't know. I've yet to find the love. Maybe I need to get one in hand. Maybe then it will become all too apparent.
hell yeah.
Because it can't just be nostalgia making that vehicle important. There's got to be more to it.
Gotta be more.
Tell me though, it had fewer like detachable parts than the AF5. Like the AF5, didn't that have like turbines under the wings?
Yeah, the Shadow Track. The Shadow Track didn't have the wings. You had missiles on the side instead.
But then in the issue that we've just read, wasn't there a flying Shadow Track at one point? No, I'm misremembering.
No, you might be
No, they just
misremembering
use
that.
hyenas, which is the hiss.
Yeah, they have a hyena, which became the hiss. Their version.
You
of
know what I'm
hiss,
misremembering? I saw an AF5 in one of Mark van Leeuwen's Dio stories recently. That's what I'm thinking about.
You see, dude, it's just too much Joe in your head, dude.
Too much. Well,
is that a thing? I mean,
on the way out, I just want to say that I'd been going through a funk and just not feeling enthusiastic about toys because while I was here with my collection, I did feel kind of smothered by exactly how much upkeep needed to be done. Firstly, dusting was a chore and rinsing 3 years worth of dust off of things, then determining which figures needed newer O-rings, and then determining which had stripped screws and could not have their O-rings replaced. Like, it's been a stressful couple of weeks from that point of view, just kind of maintaining this aging pile of plastic. But having Paul and Rob here with me again and having all the license to actually just enjoy the collection and play with them, yeah, guys, I'm loving toys again. I'm a happy boy.
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Proud of you. That's positive,
Steve's
dude.
back.
He's back, baby. And I'm like going to locations and thinking of cool ways to shoot things now. Whether I actually get around to it is anybody's guess. I mean,
we'll make it happen.
Dadding, guys, dadding.
Dadding takes up a lot of time. I didn't realize that.
It does. It's all the time. But I think this is a positive enough note to leave it on. I am a very happy boy, as I say. I feel invigorated by having my friends with me, and also by knowing that our great friends around the world, present company included. Thank you, Darren.
Woohoo.
It's good to have made your acquaintance, man. Thank you for being part of our BurgForce, man. Joining us on this adventure.
Always.
Proper cobber.
Yeah.
Bonza. Well, without further ado, I think it's time to hit a gigantic Yo Joe.
Joe.
Yes, boy. Letty criminals.